Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Dr. Uzma Shahzad, and today we are going to discuss an important topic of gynecology, which is benign diseases of ovary. Regarding benign diseases of ovaries, we have to understand the development of ovaries. We know that the ovaries, they develop from mesonephric system, and they have a separate vascular system with ovarian arteries arising from aorta and left renal vein. And first of all, the benign ovarian tumors will be discussed. They make up to 80% of all the ovarian tumors. And these benign ovarian tumors or benign ovarian cysts, they can be classified as functional cysts. They are so called because they are formed during normal functioning of the ovaries, that is the formation of follicle, and these include follicular cyst, corpus luteum cyst, and theca luteal cysts. And the other group is inflammatory cysts, which include tubo-ovarian abscesses and endometriomas. And the third group is germ cell tumors, which include benign teratoma, and epithelial tumors, which include serous cyst adenoma, mucinous cyst adenoma, and Brenner tumors. The last group of benign ovarian cysts is sex cord stromal tumors that include fibroma and thecoma. And whenever we are dealing with ovarian tumors or ovarian cysts, we have to discuss the different tumor markers which are used, and these are raised in different types of the ovarian tumors, and they help us in the risk assessment in case of ovarian tumors, and also they are important for follow-up. And the important ovarian tumors which can be asked, these include CA1 to 5. It is raised in epithelial ovarian cancers, mainly serous type of the cancers in borderline ovarian tumors. It is important in the preoperative risk assessment or calculation of risk of malignancy index in these patients, and for follow-up in case the patients are on chemotherapy. And the other important tumor marker is CA19-9, which is also raised in epithelial ovarian cancer of mucinous type and in borderline ovarian tumors. Again, it's used in preoperative risk assessment as well as follow-up. Inhibin is an other ovarian tumor which is raised in granulosa cell tumors and is used in follow-up. And beta HCG is raised in dysgerminomas and choriocarcinoma. It is again used in the preoperative risk assessment and follow-up. Alpha fetoprotein is another ovarian tumor marker which is raised in endodermal yolk sac tumors and teratomas, is used in preoperative risk assessment as well as follow-up. Now we will be discussing these benign ovarian cysts one by one. The first group is functional ovarian cysts, and as the name suggests, they are related to ovarian function, that is the process of ovulation. First of all is follicular cyst. The growth of follicle that fails to rupture will lead to formation of the follicular cyst, and this is the most common type of the cyst found in the reproductive age group. And its diagnosis is made when the cyst size is over 3 centimeters, and they rarely grow larger than 10 centimeters. These type of cysts, they are usually simple unilocular cysts, and they have, if they are asymptomatic, we have to observe the patient with sequential repeat ultrasonography, and many of these cysts, they resolve over a period of time, and sometimes they may persist and become symptomatic, and then they need laparoscopic cystectomy in these cases. The second group of functional ovarian cysts, they include corpus luteum cyst. This corpus luteum may rupture, causing hemorrhage in the peritoneal cavity, and this causes pain late in the menstrual cycle, and sometimes it is misinterpreted as ectopic pregnancy and will lead to laparotomy. And in most cases where the diagnosis is certain, we can have expectant management and give patient fluids and analgesia, and in some cases surgery is needed, and in that case with excessive hemorrhage, we have to wash out the pelvis, and ovarian cystectomy is performed in such cases. The third type of the functional ovarian cyst, they are theca luteal cysts. They are formed in cases of multiple pregnancy, in overstimulation by human chorionic gonadotrophins, molar pregnancy, choriocarcinoma, and in patients who are receiving assisted reproduction treatment. The diagnosis is usually incidental on ultrasonography, and very rarely the patients are having symptoms related to increased ovarian enlargement that is associated with peritoneal fluid and will lead to peritoneal irritation and vomiting and so on. And sometimes they are associated with electrolyte disturbances in severe cases. And once the diagnosis is made, the patient has to be managed conservatively with replacement of electrolytes, and these usually resolve spontaneously and no intervention is required. The second group of the benign ovarian cysts, they are inflammatory ovarian cysts, and the first of these is tubo-ovarian abscess or a mass. This is formed in cases in patients who are having pelvic inflammatory disease or any other cause of infection in the peritoneal cavity like appendicitis and diverticular disease. Diagnosis is usually made in cases with diagnostic criteria for pelvic inflammatory disease, and investigations performed are inflammatory markers that include white blood cell count, ESR and C-reactive protein, and different imaging techniques like ultrasonography and CT scan. They are helpful in diagnosis by showing the tubo-ovarian masses or abscess. The treatment is usually centered at eradication of infection by using antibiotics, and sometimes they may need surgical drainage or excision if they fail to resolve with conservative management. The third type of these inflammatory ovarian masses or cysts, they are endometriomas. They are associated with endometriosis and leading to a hemorrhage in the cyst that will lead to altered blood that becomes chocolate colored, and their size may reach up to 10 centimeters. On ultrasonography they give a ground glass appearance, and these cases they usually need laparoscopy or laparotomy with excision of endometriomas and adhesiolysis in such cases. Germ cell tumors is the third group of benign ovarian cysts. These include benign teratomas and dermoid cysts. These usually occur in young women with peak incidence in early 20s, and 80% they occur in reproductive life. These germ cell tumors are bilateral in 10% of the cases, and their risk of malignant transformation is very rare, which is less than 2% over 40 years of age. And these have all the three germ layers in them with all type of the tissues present, that are mesenchymal, epithelial, stromal, and any nature of the tissue types like hair, muscle, cartilage, bone and teeth may be present in these. Diagnosis is again incidental on ultrasound, and sometimes they may present acutely in emergency with torsion of cyst with cut off blood supply and acute pain, nausea, vomiting. And MRI is usually useful because of high fat content in these cases, and these are usually surgically excised either by laparoscopy or laparotomy, and cystectomy is performed in such cases. In cases of torsion, complete oophorectomy is required. The fourth group of benign ovarian cysts are epithelial tumors that include serous cyst adenomas. Serous cyst adenomas, they are the commonest type, and they usually don't reach large sizes. They are unilocular, and they rarely involve the other ovary, and they have a smooth surface and they are fluid filled. Well, the second type is mucinous cyst adenomas. They in contrary may reach very large sizes. They are filled with thick mucinous material. They are multiloculated and bilateral in 10% of the cases, and sometimes they may become perforated, leading to spread of the mucinous material in the peritoneal cavity, which is termed as pseudomyxoma peritonei, and this may need chemotherapy for resolution. The third type is Brenner tumors. These are small tumors and sometimes incidentally found, and they may be secreting estrogens. The last group of benign ovarian tumors is sex cord stromal tumors. These include fibromas. As the name suggests, They are firm in consistency and solid, composed of stromal cells. They usually occur in older age, and they present with torsion or sometimes with Meek syndrome. Meek syndrome is development of pleural and peritoneal effusions associated with ovarian fibromas. And this pleural effusion ascites present with ovarian fibroma is termed as Meek syndrome, and removal of fibroma will lead to resolution of pleural effusion and ascites in such cases. Thecoma is the other type of sex cord stromal tumor which is estrogen secreting, and they usually occur after menopause, and due to excessive estrogen and endometrial stimulation they may induce endometrial carcinoma. The other type of the ovarian cyst, they include fimbrial cyst, paratubal cyst, or cyst of Morgagni, which is embryologically derived. These are less common or rare types of the ovarian cysts. We have discussed all the types of the ovarian cyst, and whatever is the type, whenever a patient comes to us in outdoor with this problem, the patient is usually giving us history of increased abdominal girth. She might be feeling abdominal discomfort, and due to large size of the ovarian tumors, the pressure symptoms may be present that are related to bladder or bowel. And sometimes the acute abdomen is the presentation in cases of complication arising in ovarian cyst that may be in the form of hemorrhage, rupture, torsion, and sometimes they may be present asymptomatic and coincidentally diagnosed. And after history and examination, we will be performing ultrasonography, which will show certain features which point towards the benign nature of the ovarian mass. Benign ovarian masses on radiological findings are usually unilocular. They have smooth surface with no solid elements. There are no external or internal outgrowths seen. No free fluid is seen, and they are usually unilateral, having a normal Doppler flow. While clinically these benign ovarian tumors are again unilateral, and they have a cystic filling, and they are usually mobile. No associated free fluid or ascites is present, and no nodules are felt in the cul-de-sac, and they are either having a slow or no growth. And whenever the patient comes with adnexal masses, the evaluation usually starts with taking a complete history and physical examination, followed by imaging techniques like ultrasonography, and CT scan is then performed with contrast, or in some cases where there are chances of pressure on ureters or urinary system, then intravenous pyelogram is performed. Barium enema and colonoscopy is performed for any pressure effects or involvement of gastrointestinal tract, and laparoscopy and laparotomy is performed accordingly. Once we have done all the workup, then we have to plan for management, whether it has to be expectant management, or we need to give some medication, or we have to go for surgery. And indications for surgery in such cases are where the ovarian cyst is over 5 cm and is present for the last 6 to 8 weeks, not resolving, in cases having solid lesions, where we can see papillary vegetations projecting inside the cyst mass, and where ovarian mass is over 10 cm at the time of presentation, associated ascites or palpable mass in the premenarche or postmenopausal age, or there is a suspicion of torsion or rupture. All of these are indications to go for surgery. And the surgery which we can perform may be simple in the form of therapeutic ultrasound guided cyst aspiration, which is usually performed in young women who are having unilateral, unilocular, thin walled cyst with no internal echoes, and the size is usually less than 10 cm, and high risk of surgery is there in case of certain medical problems, or dense pelvic adherence is another indication for cyst aspiration. While it is contraindicated in cases having solid tumors or patients who are symptomatic, having certain pains due to arising out of some complication, and surgeries which we can perform are either through laparoscopy or by laparotomy. and the procedures performed may be the removal of ovarian cyst alone, which is termed as cystectomy, and sometimes we may need to remove whole of the adnexa. Salpingo-oophorectomy or ovarian removal is sometimes involved, which is oophorectomy. And rarely, if there is a high risk of malignancy like in postmenopausal patients, a total abdominal hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy is performed in the form of staging laparotomy so as to plan for further treatment. This completes our discussion about benign ovarian tumors, and for any queries you can contact through website EIMC, and you will get answers for that. Thank you very much.